Hello, everyone. Today, a cooking quickie, somewhat of a nutrition quickie as well, not a cookie. Hmm. However, perhaps it's time to make some cookies. Clearly, that's where my brain is. So today, I've been preparing a post about vegan foods that are high in protein. And I really hesitated to write this post because I feel like, that has been the message for so long is, where do you get your protein? And it, it's over amplified how much we need, how much protein we need on a vegan diet. And to this day, it still comes up, right? Even though that's been established through many books, many experts that we get adequate protein on a whole foods, plant-based diet. Still, I get a lot of questions about this. And in my Facebook Plant Powered Families group, which is our private group for families, it still comes up, right? Because parents are, you're raising young children and you want to make sure you're meeting the protein needs. And of course, when you have all these skeptics around you, whether they be, well-meaning family members or doctors or other health professionals, it feels very daunting, right? It can feel like an overwhelm, and you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. So today I'm going to talk about the foods that you can cook with that are especially high in protein. And it's really, really easy. Most of us are eating these anyhow. Basically, if you're eating a whole foods plant-based diet, all plant-based foods have some amount of protein. Even fruit has some amount of protein. Not a lot, but it has some, right? And potatoes, even, which people think are just carbs, just starch, they have protein. So, it's very easy to meet those protein needs when you're eating a whole foods diet. If you're eating a lot of refined products, then it's not so accessible because you're just not getting those whole foods. Hi, Melissa. And yes, I would love to hear from you all and let me know where you are and if protein is a question or an issue for you, right? Because it has been for so many people moving into plant-based diet and for new vegans as well, right? I mean, I've been vegan for 25 years and I researched this a long time ago. But this is a cooking or nutrition quickie. So I'm going to keep going and not go off tangent too much. So like I said, I'm preparing this post with 10 protein rich recipes. And there's more recipes than that, of course, because there's so many. And I give you lots of links in the post. But sort of like the protein packers of the bunch, which ones will really be boost in protein if you are concerned. And so I'm going to share that post on the weekend. You can keep an eye out from that. Hi from New York City, says Melissa. Okay, see, she's mentioning she's worrying about protein for her teenage son. And that makes total sense because teenagers are growing and especially they're active if they're in sports and that, aspect, it's an issue. So when I wrote Plant Powered Family, so I'm going to mention some resources here today because I am not a nutritionist and I'm not a dietitian. I've just studied along the way and I know which foods are higher sources of protein, but I also know that if we're eating a well-rounded whole foods, plant-based diet, that we don't need to stress about protein, right? Okay, but in Plant Powered Families, I worked with a nutritionist and she prepared a lot of charts in the book to cover things like protein and calcium and iron. So a lot of you already have Plant Powered Families. And in the back of the book, it starts on what page is that? 265. Don't have my readers on, but it's 265. The Plant Powered FAQs. There's a section on protein and it covers, there's a chart here which shows what your RDAs are for different ages, right? So it covers both males and females in teenage years, Melissa, and how many grams of protein is, what their recommended intake is every day. Also younger children and moving out of childhood and into adulthood. And then there's a chart of all the protein-based foods or lots of foods and the protein percentage in the foods. And then I'll also recommend some resources, and there's a link in my description to these books. First of all, the godfather of plant-based nutrition, Dr. T. Colin Campbell. This book, Whole, he has several books out, The China Study, and his newest is The Future of Nutrition. And Whole will, take you through that, the theory, the idea, the concept, the reality that the whole foods provide the nutrition you need. And there's some essential vitamins that we need, like vitamin B12 and vitamin D if you're not in sunny areas, and sometimes DHA as well. But in terms of protein, it's covered, right? So a book like this, if you haven't read Whole or any of Dr. Campbell's work, look into it, because he helps you understand that nutrition is more than just taking a supplement, and that, whole foods are really, plant-based foods are really abundant and work synergistically and address our nutritional needs. And then if you want to dive further into specific protein intake, Nourish by Brenda Davis and Reshma Shah, and I did a video with them a few months ago, and they have a lot of information here for families. So anyone who's raising children, this is a newer book, and it's got tons of information in here that will be useful to you. And then this is an older version. There is a newer version of this one. It's the Plant-Based Nutrition Guide by Juliana Hever, and she has a newer edition of this released. So those are some resources for you. And like I said, that post is coming out. But what I want to mention before I jump off, I'm trying to keep this somewhat short, is the plant-based foods that are most abundant are lentils and beans, legumes, that legume family, right? I always say use your bean, meaning cook with beans, because those are really abundant in protein. Lentils, chickpeas, black beans, kidney beans, all those beans. And then also anything in the pod, right? So like a green bean, green peas, snack peas, any of those vegetables that are in pods. And that also includes, the legume family also includes soybeans, right? So anything that's soy-based, being tempeh, tofu, and other soy-based products. And then you have nuts and seeds, which are super sources of protein as well. And seeds in particular, and pumpkin seeds, are quite abundant in protein, a great option for you. And I'm coming to love pumpkin seeds more and more all the time. They're one of my favorite snacks in the nighttime. I'm just getting all these different flavored pumpkin seeds and really loving them. Anyhow, I'm going off on a tangent on that. And then whole grains. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with having the occasional, bowl of white rice, or having bread that's not whole grain at times. But in general, if you're eating whole grain bread, whole grain pasta products, whole grain flours, whole grains like brown rice, quinoa, millet, brown basmati rice, and then wild rice, and all those things, I tend to use, fewer grains than the whole range. Just out of ease, I tend to use brown rice and quinoa the most. And I think a lot of people do as well. And then vegetables are also sources of protein, right? So especially the leafy greens and broccoli. It's not to say you can just sit and eat leafy greens all day and you're going to meet everything. Again, it's your well-rounded whole food plant-based diet. And also potatoes, like we talked about. Did I cover them all? I think I did. And even fruit has a small amount. So again, it's in everything we're eating, but my recipes that I'm going to share with you are going to showcase those very higher sources of protein, plant-based foods, being whole grains, legumes, all those great beany beans using your bean, and nuts and seeds. So I'll be bringing that post to you on the weekend. If you have any questions, pop in and share a question, a comment. Thank you, Rhea, for the nice appreciative note. I love to see that. Thank you. And I hope it's useful. Check out those resources if they're helpful to you, and enjoy the post when it comes a little later, okay? That's it for me, Cooking Quickie. Under 10 minutes, I did it. Okay, see you guys. Bye-bye.